Kept seeing the same pattern in our work at No Monkey. Amazing companies with strong IT security programs, but SAP environments were left wide open.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Tackling SAP Security Together, the podcast. I'm Waseem Ajrab, and sitting across from me, or virtually I would say, is my partner in all things SAP Cybersecurity. Jochen, how's it going?
Hey, Waseem, thank you so much for having me on this first edition of the new podcast format. I'm doing great. Honestly, this is super exciting. We've been running these monthly sessions for quite a while now, but turning them into a podcast feels like a natural next step in our evolution to provide the best possible knowledge about SAP in the context of cybersecurity and compliance to the entire ecosystem.
Totally. For anyone tuning in for the first time, Tackling SAP Security Together is all about one thing: making SAP cybersecurity more human, more actionable, and yes, a little bit more fun, I think.
Yeah, and let's face it, SAP isn't exactly known for being the most thrilling conversation material ever.
Not yet, not yet, but we're about to change that. In each episode, we'll dig into real challenges, awareness topics, attack vectors, and smarter ways to protect or detect threats, all while exploring the new technologies and risks you need to know around SAP environments. Because ultimately, we're here to protect the heart of your business and bring awareness to leaders who might not realize just how expensive ignoring SAP security can actually be. So let's start from the top, Jochen. Why turn our monthly sessions into a podcast?
Oof, well, the truth is, people love the sessions, but they wanted something easier to access, something you could listen to on your commute or while pretending to focus on another Teams meeting or whatever. And beyond that, we wanted to reach a wider audience, not just technical folks, but also the decision makers and executive who still see SAP as kind of a black box. They often don't realize that when SAP isn't properly secured, the cost of an incident can skyrocket, and financially as well as operationally.
Absolutely. And security doesn't have to be a 1 hour PowerPoint. It can be a conversation. And that's the whole idea behind this show. We wanted a place where we could talk about the real stories, about the lessons, and even the mistakes that make SAP cybersecurity such an interesting and high impact field.
Yes, and to be honest, we kept seeing the same pattern in our work at No Monkey. Amazing companies with strong IT security programs, but SAP environments were left wide open. So I think it's time that SAP security becomes part of the mainstream security conversation, and that includes also the C-suite.
100%. And to that, we're calling this podcast SAP Cybersecurity by No Monkey, where we are tackling SAP security together because this isn't about tech versus business. I think this is more about how both sides need to work together to solve these challenges. As we always mention, these challenges really cannot be solved alone.
Exactly. And this is about community, practitioners, analysts, researchers, and leaders all learning from each other.
I just want to go back, Jochen. You earlier said and also mentioned the SAP ecosystem. Now, when you talk about the SAP ecosystem, who are you talking about?
Yes. So SAP has about 500,000 customers around the world with more than 300 million users in more than 180 countries. Among these customers are more than 90% of the Fortune 500 companies working in 25 different industry solutions, which are provided by SAP. To top that, SAP has more than 25,000 partner organizations worldwide who generated a total revenue of about 670 billion US dollars just in the last year.
Wow, that's quite a lot. And to be honest, SAP is mostly not recognized by consumers. And I'm going to take it a step further. Within even businesses and organizations, it is not even recognized within that entire ecosystem. But what SAP touches is quite a lot in terms of our goods, in terms of our everyday use. It quite touches a lot.
Yes, I agree. So when you think of it, 89% of all TVs on this planet have touched an SAP system, so or 84% of the worldwide car production as well.
I know there's one important aspect from my perspective why I would say, well, I came into Japanese world. I know you also have this number in your head. So, what does SAP also protect, or at least what does it touch?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. You mean the beer production. 85% of the worldwide beer production is touching SAP systems as well. And isn't that a reason to protect it?
Now, yeah, absolutely. Now that's why we speak about this. Now, to keep these definitely system running, these numbers are quite impressive, I would say.
Yeah, in a nutshell, you can actually say that SAP is kind of the digital backbone of our global economy, considering the data being processed within these applications. Like, for example, finance, HR, production, logistics, and so much more important data.
All right. Since people are probably wondering who's behind the mics, maybe I think it's a good idea to have a quick intro. First of all, I'm Waseem Ajrab. I lead the technical and product side here at No Monkey. I've been in the cybersecurity space for over 12 years and got sucked into what I like to call the Japanese world about 6 years ago, working with diverse teams across different industries to actually make this topic a bit simple, a bit usable for to understand and to secure.
You got sucked in SAP? How does this happen, man?
Well, previously or in a different world outside of the Japanese, I was responsible for the security at a global company in the UAE where SAP was also in use or it was being deployed. However, it was always a black box for me and the team. It was a black spot, and I really wanted to understand what kind of risks might be there, what kind of risks can be there within the system, within the environment, or even the different applications that are being deployed. And from there, this is where I got to meet, of course, you. I got to meet a lot of different experts who were specialized in this special topic, I would say.
Yeah, fine. And I'm Jochen Fischer. I'm the founder and the co-CEO of No Monkey, and I started my career directly in Walldorf at SAP headquarters before I dove in the world of the SAP Cybersecurity with a company called Virtual Forge. And they invented the very, very first ABAP code scanner in the world. And being responsible there for international customers, I quickly found out that no matter actually where you are, no matter how big the company is or how much revenue they achieve, they are all standing in front of the same challenges when it comes to securing business critical applications like SAP.
So basically, what you're telling me is that I break things down technically, and you try to make sure that people understand why that matters to their business.
Yes, actually, my job is to make sure that security doesn't get lost in translation.
Mhm.
Because when executives understand what's at stake, they start treating SAP cybersecurity as a sustainable investment, not as an expense anymore. We saw that a lot of companies are actually throwing technology on a problem which they don't really understand. That is in context of SAP not only very, very expensive,
Mhm.
it's also ineffective when the people who need to work with the tools they are buying don't understand why actually they need a specific technology or how to use it properly to get the maximum value for the company out of their invest.
Don't you think, Jochen, this is the same problem? So you mentioned earlier that people or companies usually throw technology at a problem that they don't understand. Don't you think that this is also the same problem with other non-SAP related technology? What, of course, that is being used out there. What makes SAP so different?
That's a good one. So there are multiple aspects actually that lead to this situation, and I can illustrate them with our three lines of defense model, or how No Monkey actually got its name. So where does that come from? Typically, most companies have their own SAP departments with SAP experts who understand almost everything within that Japanese world, as you said so nicely earlier. So they speak Japanese actually, which means that they are familiar with
Mhm.
all the special terminologies that only exist in the world of SAP, like, for example, DIAC protocol, mm, that is proprietary to SAP. However, these SAP experts typically have no intrinsic motivation to own the important topic of cybersecurity for this business critical application. And that's why most of the SAP departments are not really taking care of the security beyond typical roles and authorization. And that's our first line of defense, securing SAP.
Funny, because I remember when I entered this field, SAP security, or I would believe till now, SAP security revolved around roles and authorization. This was known as SAP security, quoting what SAP security is, but it's definitely more than that. So, to move a little bit forward, you mentioned three lines of defense. What's our second line of defense?
So the second line of defense is IT security. So these are the cyber experts within an organization, but not SAP experts. So they don't speak Japanese and now also mostly not even connected to SAP to have the visibility of what is happening in that so-called black box, as you described earlier. It's like sitting in a Formula One car for the first time. You might have your driver's license since decades. You will not be able to move the Formula One car even a bit without any experience.
Makes sense. And what's our third line of defense?
So the third line of defense are the friends of everybody. Audit. Audit. So, so they face the challenge that they need to audit actually the entire IT environment and not only the SAP environment. SAP might be one of the most critical assets in the IT environment, which needs to be compliant to internal and external regulations. However, the auditors are also no SAP experts and are depending mostly on help from external competence carriers who then execute an application audit or penetration test.
Mhm.
The audit department then usually forwards this information and pressures the SAP departments to clean up until a specific point in time, which actually has a frustrating effect to the SAP guys as they have a lot of stuff on their table as well and need to deal with it.
I think that's quite a dilemma that we definitely see, and how these three lines of defense work, which I guess most C levels are not aware of, thinking that they have their three lines of defense in place. But the inconvenient truth here is that nobody really owns and proactively drives the topic of SAP, specifically in the context of cybersecurity.
Correct. And that is exactly the reason why we founded No Monkey.
Maybe to take that point right here and dig a little deeper, can you explain a bit more on how No Monkey approaches this tough mission, I would say?
Yes, sure, no problem. So first of all, I personally focus on growth, on partnerships and helping organizations understand how SAP cybersecurity ties directly into a corporate security
Mhm.
strategy, which might exist already to protect people, to protect processes, and to protect technologies in the business critical SAP environments. We actually exist also to empower people to secure the heart of their business, SAP systems. We make complex cybersecurity changeable, a bit more tangible, understandable, actionable, and also achievable by helping The teams build skills, improve the processes, and apply the right technology with confidence, actually. So we don't just deliver security somehow, we enable it.
Mhm.
And we help the people to think proactively, work security, and solve problems creatively, supported by technology that grows with them.
Mhm.
So we break down the complexities surrounding SAP security by integrating the people, the processes, and the technology into a unified defense model. We do this through practical enablement, expert services, and also a forward-thinking approach that involves with the threat landscape. We aim to push innovation in this space and help organization to also stay ahead of the emerging risks.
I like that. And I think to expand a little bit on that. So together, and of course alongside our teams, we're building services, products that help companies respond faster, respond or act smarter, and definitely with more confidence to attacks, with the right people, with the right mature processes, and the actual tools that support this entire mission. And that's really the spirit also behind this podcast.
Yeah, that makes sense because security is evolving so fast and SAP often gets left behind, to be true, that we want this actually to be a space where people can catch up, learn something, and maybe even challenge how they think about enterprise and business level security.
And of course, to our listeners, we'll be real, we'll laugh, I think, and we'll share what works and what doesn't. No corporate fluff, just honest insights that matter, whether you're actually deep in technical trenches or even sitting in the boardroom. So, Jochen, what can people expect now that we were talking about this podcast? What can people expect from this podcast moving forward?
So we're going to mix it up. Some episodes like this one will be us hosting together, sharing insights and stories, best practices from the field, lessons learned, or things we have seen every day working with our clients. Others feature amazing guests from across the SAP and cybersecurity world, threat hunters, researchers, CISOs, red teamers, or even auditors.
Exactly. So we will try to cover everything from how attackers break into SAP environments to how you can start detecting and responding faster. And of course, we can't skip one of the hottest topic where does AI fit into all of this, especially into the SAP ecosystem?
Yeah, and it's not just technical talk. We'll connect the dots between security, compliance, the C-suite, and the business impact for SAP customers as well. Because SAP attacks don't just hit data, they hit operations, revenue, and trust. And if you're sitting in a C-level role, that means risk, downtime, and reputation, which all translate to.
Cost. Exactly. That is a big part of our mission. Trying or at least helping executives understand that SAP cybersecurity isn't a nice to have, it is a direct business enabler. And we're planning to keep it, to repeat that, keep it real, keep it short, quite insightful, and very honest. So no buzzwords. We'll try to move away from the Japanese world and bring it to light, but definitely meaningful conversations.
Yeah, and that's super important also to mention that we'll also invite listeners to send us their questions or scenarios. So this really also becomes a two-way conversation.
Agreed. So before we wrap up, Jochen, if there's one thing um, you hope people take away from this first episode, what would it be?
Oof, that SAP security is not nice to have anymore in 2026. I mean, look at Jaguar Land Rover has recently shown us what happens when hope is your strategy. It's impossible to outsource responsibility or even liability. And if you can't do it yourself, get help from the fabulous experts within the SAP security ecosystem. And if we start thinking collaboratively about it, detection engineers, cybersecurity professionals, SAP bases and security teams, and business leaders, we can actually make a difference, making SAP more resilient application safeguarding our global economy, actually.
I love that. And allow me to add, don't wait until you've been breached to get curious about SAP security, an important part here. If you're in a leadership role, it's far cheaper to invest in prevention than to actually pay for recovery.
Allow me to underline this. Curiosity is free, recovery isn't.
Perfectly said, I would say. So, Jochen, thank you very much for your insights and taking the time to visit our first edition of this brand new format.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Waseem, for having me.
Thank you. So, that's a wrap for episode 1 of SAP Cybersecurity by No Monkey, where we are tackling SAP security together. Wherever you are, subscribe to listen to us, to listen to the podcast, and follow No Monkey on LinkedIn for updates. Next episode, we're diving into the attacker's mindset, how hackers target SAP BTP, and what that means for your business. It's going to be a great one. Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the SAP Cybersecurity podcast by No Monkey.